Hi guys, I have a book here for you today called Maui Maui. Seagulls soared like butterflies over the clear blue waters of the Pacific Ocean. Their wings dipped and tipped the waves as the wind gently floated them to some unknown destination. Suddenly, the stillness of the ocean was broken by the mighty leap of a whale as it reached high into the air and crashed back into the sea. Soon the water was awash as an entire pod of whales flipped and frolicked in the crystal morning sunshine. They floated and rolled in the sea, spouting water high into the air and basked in the sunshine shower of rainbows that they had created. The warm air nearly lulled the whales to sleep as they drifted gently in the blue Pacific waters. Far off on the horizon, a dozen or so strange little boats suddenly appeared, and the quiet solitude of the whales was broken by the loud, squeaky voices of small furry creatures called anemones who manned the sails. The whales, with an unspoken signal, slid beneath the sea and quickly swam away. The anemones, with much arm-waving, screaming, and yelling, threw their nets into the water and began their daily chore of fishing. As soon as the nets were filled with fish, the anemones pulled them aboard, dumping the fish into the bottom of the boat and tossing the nets back into the water. Their nets caught everything and anything: little fish, big fish, tuna, cod, and even an occasional octopus that happened, unfortunately, to be swimming by. The anemones didn't really care. They just threw them in the bottom of the boat, tossed the nets back into the water, and fished some more. They were always in such a hurry to catch a bunch of fish that one, or sometimes two, of the anemones would slip on a fish and fall into the water, catching himself in the net. It didn't matter to the other creatures. They would just haul in the nets and dump their soggy friend into the bottom of the boat with all of the fish. Poor anemone! He'd shake the water out of his fur, brush off the seaweed, climb back up on the deck of the ship, and fish some more. They fished like this for hours and hours, waving their arms, screaming and yelling. The anemones threw the nets into the water, filled them with fish, hauled in the nets, dumped the fish in the bottom of the boat, and then started all over again. Finally, when their boats couldn't hold another fish without sinking, they set their sails and headed back to Anemone Island. When they arrived back at their island, the other anemones helped them drag the boats onto the beach and unload all of the fish that they had caught. There were so many fish, baskets and baskets of them, that nobody even cared when a little stray kitten snatched one and hightailed it to the other side of the island. When all of the fish were cleaned, the queen of all the anemones, Mom Anemone, would cook the most delicious dishes that you could ever imagine. She would cook fish stew, fried fish, fricasseed fish, roast fish, fish soup, and the best and all for dessert, fish pudding with seasoned seaweed sauce. Mom Anemone, just like the other anemones, who always caught more fish than they could use, always cooked more fish than they could eat. It didn't matter, they thought. There's always more fish in the sea. Once again, that very morning, the Amomenes loaded the boats and set sail for the fishing grounds. When they arrived, they began yelling, screaming, and waving their arms as they threw their nets into the sea. But before they had a chance to pull in the very first net of fish, a large, magnificent whale breached and leaped high into the air, crashing down on the Amomenes' nets. Try as they might, the Amomenes could not haul in their nets, with the monstrous whale holding on to the other end. They tugged and pulled to no avail. Finally, out of frustration, they cut the nets free and watched them sink to the bottom of the ocean. The Amomenes sat around on their gently rocking boats, trying to figure out what to do next. They thought, and then one of the creatures said brightly, "I know! We've all got our old fishing poles aboard. If we can't net the fish, we can catch them with hook, line, and sinker." Thought the other Amomenes. "It might take a little longer, but we can still fill our boats with fish." So they hurriedly gathered all of the poles together and tied the hooks onto the lines and cast them into the water. Just as one of the little creatures was about to hook the first fish, that very same whale came slipping up and out of the water, snatching the pole right out of his hands. "This will never do," they cried as they threw their poles down in disgust. "We must go back to the island and ask the Queen what to do." With that they hurriedly set aside for home. Well, as was usual, when the boats returned, the other anemones rushed out to help unload all the fish that had been caught, but much to their dismay there wasn't a single fish to unload. "What is the meaning of all this?" shouted the queen of all the anemones, Mom Anemone. The fishermen all knelt at her feet and cried, "We tried, oh great queen, but whenever we tried to catch any fish, a mighty gray whale would steal our nets and all of our fishing poles. We didn't know what we should do." "Poppycock," grumbled the queen. "First thing in the morning I will sail out and talk to this mighty whale of yours, and I will command him to leave you alone." With that she stumped back to her hut to prepare for the journey. Bright and early the next morning, the queen of all the anemones set out to find the great whale. She sailed all morning and long into the day, but nowhere could she find the gray whale. Those lazy fishermen probably made up the whole thing. There isn't any whale at all. Then, just to prove her point, she decided to fish for a little while. With much yelling and screaming and waving of her arms, she threw her net over the side of the boat. No sooner had the net touched the water than the great gray whale leaped high into the air and landed on top of the net. "Now see here," she shouted haughtily. "Why are you doing that? Give me back my net. I am causing you no harm." "Oh, but you are," said the whale. "My name is Maui, and I am the leader of a very small pod of whales who live peacefully in these waters. We didn't mind when you moved to the island and began to fish the sea. But now, because of your wastefulness, there aren't enough fish for my fellow whales, and we are going hungry." "Oh, pooh!" grumbled Mamma Mamminy. "There's always been plenty of fish in the sea. I will tell you what, Master Maui, I will swim with you, and you may show me." With that she removed her seashell cape and her palm leaf crown, and jumped and leaped bravely into the water with the great gray whale. "As you wish," said Maui quietly, "but I swim much faster than you. Hold on to my dorsal fin, and I'll show you an empty sea." The queen did as he asked, and they slowly sank into the deep blue sea. Deeper and deeper they went, and all the while they saw not one fish, not even a single solitary octopus. Down and down they went, and still not one fish was seen. Finally, after searching every nook and cranny at the bottom of the sea, they surfaced near the Queen's boat, and Maui carefully helped her onto the deck. "I don't understand," she said, as she combed the seaweed from her hair. "There used to be so many fish. Where have they all gone?" Maui thought for a moment, and then carefully said, "You always caught more fish than you needed, and you always cooked more fish than you needed. Now, because of your wastefulness, there aren't any fish at all." "What are we going to do?" she cried. "Without the fish we will surely starve." "Come," said the great whale, "let me tow you back to your island, and I will teach you and your people how to share your life with the sea." He carefully slipped the net over his head and quickly pulled the small boat back to the island. When they got back to the island, the other anemones were really scared to see such a large whale, but the Queen soon set them at ease, and Maui began teaching them about conservation in the sea. He taught them to catch only the full-grown fish, and to throw the little ones back into the water so that they would have a chance to grow. He taught them the difference between the fishes, and how to catch certain fish at certain times. He taught them to fish for only what they needed, and to gently put the occasional octopus back in the water when it got caught in the nets. But most of all, he taught them to love and respect the sea the way a farmer loves his land and cares for his animals. From that day forward, the anemones and the whales worked together hand in fin to make the ocean a finer place to live. The only time they ever had any trouble was when they would sight on the horizon a dozen or so strange little boats sailed by smooth-skinned creatures called men. So when you are out fishing in the oceans, lakes, or seas, remember Maui and the lesson of the anemones. The end. I hope you guys liked it. Bye.